Welcome to this explainer. We all know that thrilling feeling of looking up at a night sky totally illuminated by brilliant colors. But the story of how those lights actually got there? Well, it's a dramatic tale of accidental science, global trade, warfare, and ultimately, a profound desire for peace. Today, we're diving into the fascinating historical journey of fireworks and unpacking exactly how they transformed from tools of destruction into breathtaking art. Okay, let's start by looking at this massive historical contrast. The very same black powder initially developed to wage war is exactly what lights up our skies in beautiful celebration today. Just think about that for a second. The exact same chemical foundation that fueled empires and caused unimaginable destruction on the battlefield was entirely repurposed. Today, it powers our most joyful summer traditions. It's an incredible testament to human ingenuity, really, taking a weapon of absolute fear and completely reshaping it into a medium of awe and wonder.
So let's kick things off with Section 1, Birth from Military Technology, the Ancient Origins of Explosive Powder.
Tracing this back, the story builds from ancient BC-era smoke signals, known as naroshi, all the way to early market firecrackers in the Southern Song dynasty. See, long before anyone was engineering spectacular explosions in the sky, ancient civilizations in places like India, Greece, Rome, and Qin dynasty China were using primitive smoke signals just for basic military communication. But the real turning point came later in China. Once the explosive potential of black powder was unlocked, the application totally shifted. By the time we reached the Southern Song dynasty, the technology had advanced so much that early versions of firecrackers were literally being sold in local markets. Now, this is probably my favorite part, because the sheer irony here is just incredible. Chinese alchemists were meticulously mixing elements, desperately hoping to find a miraculous elixir for immortality. Instead of extending life, they accidentally invented a highly volatile black powder. I mean, they probably lost a few eyebrows in the process, right? But this accidental formula quickly found its way out of the apothecary and straight into the hands of military engineers, which completely changed the landscape of warfare forever. Moving right along to Section 2, Gunpowder's Global Journey, Crossing Continents and Centuries. So how did it spread? Well, this technology leaped across the globe in some pretty incredible ways. In the 13th century, merchants traveling the historic Silk Road brought the powder to Islamic countries. Over in Asia, Japan got its first terrifying taste of the powder as a weapon during the Mongol invasions of 1274. Later on, in 1543, Portuguese castaways actually washed ashore in Japan, bringing with them actual firearm parts. So you have trade, exploration, and invasion, effectively distributing this explosive technology to every single corner of the Earth. But here's where things diverge. While Japan was initially introduced to gunpowder as a weapon, Italy was turning it into a celebration. Florence actually pioneered the use of fireworks. Starting in the late 14th century, the Italians began crafting what we would recognize today as modern-style fireworks. And let me tell you, it became an absolute sensation. If you were European royalty, there was no better way to flaunt your wealth and power than to literally set the night sky on fire. High-profile weddings, grand royal coronations, they were all suddenly illuminated by these dazzling, wildly expensive spectacles. Which brings us to Section 3, Arrival and Shogun's Surprise, the early days of fireworks in Japan. Now, there is actually a fascinating historical debate over who actually saw them first in Japan. The widely accepted history is that the great Tokugawa Ieyasu marveled at a Chinese merchant's display at Sumpu Castle in 1613. But there are some recent, quieter historical whispers suggesting that the legendary warlord Date Masamune might have enjoyed a similar fiery spectacle way back in 1589. Regardless of who was technically first, it really shows that the highest echelons of Japanese leadership were becoming absolutely captivated by this stuff. And to add to the historical mystery, Portuguese missionaries were also surprising locals with their own explosive displays around the exact same time. Can you even imagine the shock? You're a local villager, and suddenly these foreign missionaries begin launching roaring trails of fire into the heavens. It must have felt completely otherworldly. This wild combination of Chinese merchants and Portuguese missionaries really planted the seeds for fireworks to be viewed as magnificent entertainment rather than just a tool for combat. All right, let's look at Section 4, Towards a Symbol of Peace, from military fire to artisan craft. As the era of Taihei, which means peace, settled over the nation, we see this incredible shift happen in places like Tokushima. During wartime, the Katsuro River was heavily lined with gunpowder magazines to supply military forces. But during peacetime, That very same military infrastructure gave birth to something sacred. They developed Ava Hanabi. Instead of firing at enemies, rural youth painstakingly prepared fireworks to be offered at the Tachie Hachimangu shrine. It was deeply spiritual. It was a way of using the intense purity of fire to pray and genuinely show reverence to the divine. And the Japanese artisans, they literally risked their lives to perfect this craft. Making fireworks was incredibly dangerous work, demanding just extreme precision and dedication. But these master craftsmen poured their souls into the process. They didn't just replicate the imported Chinese techniques, they completely revolutionized them. They introduced these brilliant, vivid colors and engineered the explosions to break in immaculate, three-dimensional spheres, creating what we call the perfect giant flower fireworks. This relentless pursuit of beauty is exactly why Japanese fireworks are considered some of the most sophisticated and breathtaking in the entire world. But you know, those massive summer river festivals we all enjoy today? They actually have deeply tragic and profoundly moving origins rooted in a devastating famine. It wasn't always just about a fun summer evening out with friends. The grand tradition of launching thousands of fireworks over the rivers of Japan was born directly out of the Great Famine of Kyoho 18, which was the year 1733. The entire nation was grieving an immense loss of life, and the government desperately needed a way to help the people heal. So, the 8th shogun, Yoshimune, stepped in and initiated a highly intentional, spiritual sequence of events. First, a water god festival was organized specifically to comfort the countless souls lost to starvation and disease. Then, when those massive fireworks were launched, the earth-shaking booms weren't just for show. People genuinely believed that those deafening sounds would literally frighten and drive away the plagues that were tormenting the country. So, I want to leave you with this thought. The next time you watch a fireworks show, realize you are directly participating in an ancient tradition of peace, memorial, and breathtaking human ingenuity. You aren't just looking at pretty lights up there. You are looking at the exact same gunpowder that shaped global empires, completely reinvented by fearless artisans. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this incredible history in today's Explainer. Stay curious, and I'll catch you in the next one.